So imagine you're a federal employee in your early 60s with about $1 million saved between TSP and a 401k. You've done everything you were supposed to do, but now you're starting to ask yourself the real questions. Can we actually retire? How much can we safely spend? And how much of that is the IRS planning to take? In this video, I'm going to walk through a federal retirement case study in my planning software and show you two paths. First is the default path, where John and Lisa follow the standard rules and send roughly 6 figures or more to the IRS. Second is a planned path where they keep more of their money and can spend it with confidence. We'll look at their cash flow, retirement income sources, withdrawal rates, and taxes, and then I'll show you how a few changes can lower their lifetime taxes while keeping the same lifestyle. I'm Tom, founder of GT Wealth, and I specialize in helping federal employees under FERS retire confidently without getting crushed by taxes. Now, in this case study, John and Lisa are not real clients, but the numbers and decisions are exactly what I walk through in real plans. So let's jump right in. Okay, so here we have John and Lisa sample. John is 60, a federal employee under FERS with 30 years of service. Lisa is 58, and she works in the private sector. John has $600,000 in his TSP. Lisa has $400,000 in her 401k, and together they have $100,000 in a joint taxable investment account with also $30,000 in cash savings. Their home is worth $650,000 with a small remaining mortgage that would be paid off before retirement. And so they're sitting on a little over $1.1 million in investable assets plus their home. But numbers only matter in the context of their life. When we talked about goals, John said he would like to retire at 62, while Lisa enjoys her work and is fine working to 65. They want to stay in their current home for now, visit kids and eventually grandkids a few times a year, and take 1 or 2 bigger trips every year in their 60s. So we earmarked a goal to spend $10,000 every year on travel for the first 10 years of retirement. Now, for day-to-day life, they want to maintain a similar lifestyle to today without feeling like they have to count every dollar. So in retirement, their target spending is $6,500 per month after tax to maintain a similar standard of living, and they'd love to have around $10,000 per year for travel for the first 10 years in retirement. Now, for healthcare, while they're both working, they're on employer coverage, so we don't have a big out-of-pocket line item just yet, but once John retires and keeps FEHB into retirement, we're assuming about $750 per month, or roughly $9,000 per year in today's dollars, for a typical self and family FEHB plan. So think of something like a Blue Cross basic level plan, and then the software then lets that healthcare cost grow at a 5% medical inflation rate every year. Now, when John eventually hits 65, his FEHB premium does not go away. We keep that $9,000 per year FEHB cost in the plan, and then we layer Medicare on top. So at 65, we add Medicare Part B for John as a separate expense, using a simple round number of about $200 per month in today's dollars and letting that inflate as well. Later, when Lisa hits 65, we add Medicare for her too, using the national average provided in the system. So the structure here is FEHB continuing the whole time, with Medicare coming in as an additional cost, but with lower out-of-pocket exposure because Medicare is primary and FEHB acts more like a wraparound coverage in retirement. Now let's look at their income. For John, his current salary is $106,000. At 62, with 30 years of service and the 1.1% FERS formula, his gross pension comes out to about $2,600 per month after electing the 50% survivor option benefit for Lisa. Now, for Lisa, her current salary is around $80,000, and for her Social Security, she wanted to start taking that when she retires at age 65, which comes out to around $2,400 a month at 65 under these assumptions. And if we go over to John's Social Security, he'll also receive a reduced amount for taking it early at 62, and that comes out to around $2,300 per month. Now, they've both been great savers, putting 10% into each of their plans, John into his TSP and Lisa into her 401k. And right now, they're spending $7,500 per month on their lifestyle while working. So for retirement, we're targeting $6,500 per month after tax for their lifestyle, plus the separate travel and health goals. Now, the reason for the drop from $7,500 to $6,500 is mostly because they're no longer saving 10% into their TSP and 401k. They're also done with some work-related costs like commuting and parking, and the mortgage is almost gone as they move into retirement. John's FERS pension feels a little over $2,000 per month net after taxes and the FEHB premium. And once Lisa retires and they both start Social Security, more of that $6,500 will be covered by guaranteed income. So let's jump over to the cash flows and see what this actually looks like. Starting on the left-hand side, we see the income inflows. Then we have expenses, goals, taxes, planned saving, and then we have total outflows over here. So all the way on the right, you can see we have net flows, which means we are net positive, or our total inflows are larger than our total outflows. When this turns negative, it means we are short and have a gap between what's coming in and what's going out. And as the years pass, you can see that this net flows number gets more negative, which means a bigger gap that has to be filled by withdrawals from their investments. And that's because in those first couple of years, we have John's salary, then it drops off from retiring, and Lisa's continues until she retires at 65, and then that also drops off. So the question we care about is whether the size of that gap is reasonable relative to their portfolio, or if it's pushing them into dangerous withdrawal rates. Now, what helps John and Lisa manage this is their guaranteed income sources. Social Security for John starts at 62, Lisa's starts at 65, and then there's John's pension. So by the time they both retire and are collecting Social Security and the pension, they'll be close to bringing in $70,000 or more in guaranteed income sources without even having to touch their investments. Now, if we go back to the main cash flows page, and we look at the first year when John and Lisa are both retired, that's where they have the largest gap between what's coming in and their total expenses. And we can see that only gets larger as time goes on. Now, if we click on their expenses, we can see their living expenses, housing, which is made up of property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and their healthcare costs for the both of them. And so in order to fill this ongoing gap, they need to pull the difference from their investments, which is the TSP and the 401k. Now, for many folks who are moving into retirement, the majority of their investments are spread across different investments in the market. Maybe you have 70% stock and 30% bonds, or 90% stock and 10% bonds. And that's fine in your working years, but as you move into retirement and have the need to pull money out of these accounts, the last thing you want to do is be super high risk, have to sell your positions, and take money out when there's a big market downturn. Now, for John and Lisa, we're assuming a balanced mix instead of 90% stocks, but no matter what your mix is, the problem is still the same. So what do we do to prevent this is carve out 1 to 3 years of expenses and keep it in a high yield savings account that's cash. That way, if markets are ugly right when you retire, you're not panicking and selling stocks to pay the bills. Now, for John and Lisa, we do the same thing scaled to their numbers. To show you how the math works, let's say your expenses are $10,000 a month. So that's $120,000 per year. 120,000 times 3 is 360,000. So we'd keep $360,000 in cash readily available so that regardless of what the market is doing in those first couple years into retirement, you know you wouldn't have to sell any investments. So if we go back to the retirement analysis section for John and Lisa, we can see they have a 93% probability of success within this plan, which is actually really good. And that's mostly due to their guaranteed income sources of Social Security and the pension, combined with their cash buffer for the early retirement years and their investments that continue to grow throughout their retirement years. Now, the next question becomes, does this actually work under different market conditions? So if we look at their withdrawal rate, Go over here. It's actually very low in the beginning years, hovers around 3% in their 70s, and just starts to hit 4 or 5% in their 80s and 90s from required minimum distributions kicking in. And those withdrawal rates, which in my opinion, they're still safe withdrawal rates given the size of their portfolio. Now, those mandatory withdrawals can push their taxable income and their annual tax payments way up later in life. If we go back to the cash flow summary and we scroll down to when the RMDs begin, we can see just how big those forced distributions get. And between both of them, those combined distributions can be greater than $300,000 in 1 year under these assumptions, which is all entirely counted as taxable income. And as this continues from year to year, you end up paying more in taxes over time as well. So even though they make it on paper, those forced distributions mean they're on track to pay far more tax later than they probably expect. So what can we do about this? Well, we can consider what's called doing Roth conversions, essentially moving money from our TSP or 401k into a Roth IRA on purpose during low income years. And if we look on this chart, you can see their projected taxable income year by year, with the colored lines representing the top of each tax bracket. And you'll also notice this little valley here on the left from the ages of 67 to 70. These are prime years for Roth conversions because John and Lisa's income is very low during this period of time. So let's say if between the ages of 67 and 70, we convert just enough each year to fill up the 12% tax bracket. And under these assumptions, we can see that alone reduces their projected lifetime tax bill by over $400,000 over the rest of their retirement. John and Lisa keep the same lifestyle. They're just changing when money moves from pre-tax to Roth. Now also, if you're considering doing Roth conversions, you have to be careful not to affect your Medicare premiums, but with the proper timing and strategy, you can save a lot of money in taxes throughout the life of your retirement. Now, outside of the math, plans like this almost always expose a couple of blind spots. For John and Lisa, it's things like making sure they're not sitting 80 or 90% in stocks as they enter retirement, and structuring their investments so there's a safe bucket to fund withdrawals during bad markets. It's updating their estate planning documents so everything they built actually goes where they want it to go. And on the healthcare side, it's being clear on how FEHB and Medicare work together, what coverage they want, and what that means for cash flow, rather than waking up at 65 and guessing. Once the base plan is clear, those decisions become a lot easier to make. And so I hope this video has been helpful. If you're a federal employee or married to one and you're roughly 55 to 65 with a FERS pension and a meaningful TSP balance, you're probably in a very similar position to John and Lisa. If you want to see your own version of this inside the same software, I offer a Federal Retirement Blueprint call. And by the end of that call, you'll see your default path and an alternate version that shows how long your money lasts and how much tax you're on track to pay under each scenario. There's a link below to request it. You'll answer a short federal retirement questionnaire. I'll review it personally, and if it looks like I can genuinely help, we'll book the call and walk through your numbers together. So if you're within about 10 years of retiring from federal service, click the link below and request your blueprint call. Now, if you found this helpful, then I'd encourage you to watch this video right here. If you've ever wondered how much will my income drop when I retire from federal service, in this video, I walk through a real FERS retirement income versus salary example step by step. Click here to watch, and I'll see you over there.